Hey, Carl here to say that Music to Code By is now an app called Music to Flow By. Now you can listen to the tracks on your phone with offline capability. The first 3 tracks are free, and the entire catalog is available by subscription with a new track arriving every month. Just go to musictoflowby.com for all the links. Welcome back to .NET Rocks. This is Carl Franklin.
And this is Richard Campbell.
And we're here with Mr. Huckaby. He's going to come on in just a few minutes. Looking forward to that. But let's just jump into this Better Know framework because it's pretty epic, right?
It's profound.
Profound. Roll the music.
All right, dude. I don't know how you explain this thing.
I don't know either. This is perhaps the best answer ever given on Stack Overflow. So, and trust me when I tell you, you have to go read it. And I actually pasted this into Tim's Skype chat window so he could go there and maybe comment on this as well.
You got to read the title of it.
The title is...
The question's important.
The question is very important. The title is regex match open tags except XHTML self-contained tags. And the guy says, I need to match all of these opening tags. And he's got a paragraph tag. And then he's got an anchor, href equals foo, but not these. BR/, right? The XHTML BR, the ones with the slash closing tag, right?
Right.
And a HR class equals foo / close tag, right? All right. So it's hard to explain on an audio show, but we're going to try. And now he says, I came up with this regular expression, want to make sure I've got it right. And he gives this little piece of snippet, and he says, I believe it says, find a less than, then find and capture A to Z one or more times, then find 0 or more spaces, then find any character 0 or more times, greedy except /, then find a greater than. Do I have that right? And then more importantly, what do you think? And the number one answer voted by 4,425 people not only contains great writing, but there's a visual element to it that is so sublime and subtle, you cannot get it unless you go read it. So this is show 1508. If you go to 1508.pwop.me, you'll get there.
There's a transient moment in this answer where you realize the portal to hell is actually opened.
I think he actually says that.
I think it starts at the line, HTML and regex go together like love, marriage, and ritual infanticide. Yeah. And it gets dark from there.
So it starts with, you can't parse HTML or XHTML with regex because HTML can't be parsed by regex. Regex is not a tool that can be used to correctly parse HTML. Okay, so you notice he's answered the same thing
there's a theme.
3 times.
I'm pretty sure there's a theme.
As I have answered in HTML and regex questions here so many times before, the use of regex will not allow you to consume HTML. Regular expressions are a tool that is insufficiently sophisticated to understand the constructs employed by the HTML. HTML is not a regular language and hence cannot be parsed by regular expressions.
I'm getting a theme. I'm getting a hint.
All right, he's getting a little more worked up. He says regex queries are not equipped to break down HTML into its meaningful parts so many times, but it is not getting to me.
There you go. It's starting to get weird at that point.
Yeah. Even enhanced regular expressions, as used by Perl, are not up to the task of parsing HTML. You will never make me crack. HTML is a language of sufficient complexity that it cannot be parsed by regular expressions. Even John Skeet cannot parse HTML using regular expressions. Every time you attempt to parse HTML with regular expressions, the unholy child weeps the blood of virgins and Russian hackers pwn your web app. Parsing HTML with regex summons tainted souls in the realm of the living.
Are you really going to read this whole thing?
No,
really?
But it goes on and on and on. And the next line is the one that you quoted.
Yeah, because I thought that was the turning point. That's when you think that there actually is like a rip in the space-time starting to form in front of him.
But now, I mean, I can't describe the visual. It's all done with fonts, and it just looks like static. I don't know how to say it, but it looks...
He went and I went and looked at the source too. It's there as well.
Oh, unbelievably awesome.
And you got to call out that who wrote this answer? Who is the genius that wrote this answer?
Yeah, who was the genius that wrote this answer, Richard?
I don't know. I can't see his name anywhere. I see the moderators locked it up because it was profoundly perfect and should never, ever be touched. But I can't see I believe he was actually destroyed writing this answer. He doesn't exist anymore. Although he does close with the statement, have you tried using an XML parser instead?
It's just too good.
It's the greatest. It is truly
perhaps the greatest.
The greatest thing I've ever seen.
Yeah.
It's just, there's a lot of gems in Stack Overflow, but
that's awesome.
It's profound.
All right. Who's talking to us for real, Richard?
Grab your comment off of show 1112. That's 1112, which we recorded back in March of 2015 with one Tim Huckaby. When we were talking about working beyond Connect. This happens to be the last show that Tim did. So 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago. It's been a while. So here's a comment. It's 3 years old. It's from Brad Collins, who says, Carl made the point that it creeps us out that a computer knows all this stuff about us, because, of course, we were talking about image tracking and so on. But we're not at all bothered by a barista that knows our favorite drink. I think the reason for that is that we trust human beings to have a sense of propriety. I mean, unless you're Mark Miller, but yeah.
We also trust them to forget.
I guess there's that too. In other words, to keep the preparation H example from the program, I guess we made a preparation H example back in the program. That doesn't surprise me, actually.
Probably did.
Even if your barista does, for some strange reason, know you have hemorrhoids, he's not going to blurt it out in a store full of customers. Computers, on the other hand, don't have manners. They don't know the difference between welcome back, Phil, need another 12-pack of vanilla Coke, and welcome back, Phil, need another lube of extra strength for preparation H. I don't know. I think you probably could program that in. There's got to be a certain class of products. You just go, you really shouldn't be blurting these anywhere. But that's kind of a literal thing, I think.
Oh, man.
But Brad goes on. C-3PO, with all his deference, English manners, is still science fiction. And thank goodness for that. Until computers have AI sophisticated enough to know the difference between the stuff we're pretty comfortable talking about in public and the stuff that's in the TMI category, computers with an invasive feeling knowledge of us is going to continue to creep us out. Now, this was a comment written 3 years ago. Thinking about what we're doing in this space right now, I think we could expect computers to be able to do this.
I think
that's
so.
Interesting to me.
Yep.
And Brad finished off with, finally, the manners propriety thing notwithstanding, Big Brother type surveillance, whether it's in a government or a business, just makes us uncomfortable. A human store clerk doesn't follow us around like a shadow, noting every purchase we make, perhaps even every product we passingly glance at. If one did, you'd say, dude, back off. You're giving me the creeps. You'd leave and you wouldn't come back. As we tend to see it, somebody who behaves that way just isn't right or is up to no good. You know what? We've put cameras everywhere these days. It's just a question of whether people are looking. You have the right to privacy, but you don't necessarily have the right to not be measured. It's just a question of how that data is treated. I mean, it has to be treated privately. Clearly, you do not want it blurted out. You looked at the bread.
Right.
Anyway, Brad, I'm sure this is going to kick off some conversations with Tim on the show, so thank you so much for your comment. A .NET Rocks mug is on its way to you, and if you'd like a .NET Rocks mug, write a comment on the website at .NETRocks.com or via any of our social media. So we publish every show to Google Plus and Facebook, and if you comment there and we read it on the show, we'll send you a mug.
And definitely follow us on Twitter. I'm at Carl Franklin. He's at Rich Campbell. Send us a tweet. We definitely do not parse them with regex.
I had a problem. I tried to solve it with regex. Now I have two problems.
Now I have a problem factory.
I think that was Java.
That was Java, yes. Okay, let's bring Tim on the show, but first let me give him a formal introduction. Tim Huckaby is an industry luminary focused on AI, computer vision, machine learning, AR and MR, and emerging user experiences. Mr. Huckaby has over 35 years of technology experience, including serving on a server product team as a development lead on an architecture team at Microsoft. Tim worked on some famous and not so famous Microsoft Server products in the late 90s. He's a Microsoft Global RD, a Microsoft MVP, and serves on many councils and boards, like the Microsoft Application Development Partner Advisory Council. There's more, but you're going to have to go to our website to read it. Welcome back, Tim.
Hey, wow, what a bio.
Hey.
How embarrassing.
It is pretty big.
You've been up to some stuff.
What'd you think of that Stack Overflow thing?
Well, you guys tell me to be quiet while you read this stuff, and you're gonna have to edit out all my giggling.
Oh, I don't think we'll do that.
You didn't get to my favorite part in that thread, so I'm scanning this thread trying to read it and catch up to what you're talking about. And there's a quote from an ancient Chinese strategist, general, and philosopher. Did you catch that part?
Yeah, I got that.
His quote is, "It is said that if you know your enemies and know yourself, you can win 100 battles without a single loss. If you know only yourself, but not your opponent, you may win or lose. If you know neither yourself nor your enemy, you will always endanger yourself." And then this guy continues, guy or girl, whoever it is, she's brilliant or he's brilliant. "In this case, your enemy is HTML." and you are either yourself or you are regex. You might even be Perl with irregular regex. No HTML, know yourself. And then he drops the microphone. It's freaking brilliant. And yes, thank you, gentlemen, for turning me on to the best amusement this week in Stack Overflow.
That was quite good. I can't take credit for it, though. Joel Hewlin found that and shared it with me.
Classic.
So that's very good. What the heck is up with you, Tim? What are you doing these days?
The stuff that's up with me, at least a good part of the stuff that's up with me, is what your fan, Brad, just alluded to. And that's computer vision. We do a lot of it. Let's see, my life has changed. We all decided that I'd been on .NET Rock so many times that I need to go away for a few years. So it's good to be back, boys. My life has changed. I'm beholden to 3 CEOs. I'm still, in debt and penniless, but I do own 3 companies. That's my latest joke. I essentially report to 3 CEOs. In terms of computer vision, the Internology company has been doing it forever, but it wasn't till this whole machine learning boom, I'd say about 2 years ago, where it really became relevant. That I'm changed because of machine learning, and understand that I have no background in machine learning. I barely understand what it does. I didn't study cognitive science or anything like that. To me, machine learning is a freaking REST API. Right.
Yeah.
And I think when I stand in front of audiences, that's what I say now. There's only so many experts in machine learning, but if you know how to call a REST API, then you're an expert.
You get the business case and you know what businesses need, and they don't even know what they need, and they don't even know how to use it. So I think there's the value right there.
Now, I'm overstating the obvious. There's a lot of brilliant engineers here that, are doing all the trig and calculus and to watch faces as they move around within the room or outside and do all that. And there's a lot of hard engineering in there, but facial recognition is a solved problem.
The only calculus in my life, Tim, is on my teeth.
Yeah. So, wow, I lost my train of thought after that image.
Derailed.
So, your fan Brad there brings out a number of relevant points. It's just as it relates to me, if you would have asked me, I don't know, 2-3 years ago, if I would be an expert in privacy law or know anything about it, I would have laughed. Well, guess who is an expert in privacy law? It's the burly little left-hander from North Hollywood, California. That'd be me.
Nice.
Yeah. So let me give you, for instance, how this technology is used for good. I don't think it's NDA or anything to tell you that we live in a different world now, and terrorism is legit. So I won't tell you where. Just assume it's the biggest attack surface in the United States of America. At an NFL game this past Sunday, we ran the visibility software looking for the bad guy and doing Amber Alerts and things like that. But that's the reality of today. You are being watched in the United States. You are being watched by numerous sources, many of them government sources, but many of them are private, like us. We do it through digital signage. You know, when people are looking at a digital sign, the digital sign's looking back at them.
Right.
And, you know, it's also the reality that the world's entertainers, musicians like Carl and famous actors and stuff are demanding another level of security. And frankly, doing it the way we do it through digital signage, when people look at the sign, you know, and we look back, it's just a really effective way and cost-effective way to do simple facial recognition and alert the security systems and things like that. That's easy stuff. In terms of the security practice, we've made great headway in recognizing objects. We're really good at faces, and machine learning has really helped us throughout the last couple of years. That and the power we have in the cloud to do all this stuff.
Right.
But now I'm on a mission, a personal mission. I've been at it about 6 months to create the classifier for recognizing objects. Now, that is not a solved problem. And if you think it through, you know, a face has common characteristics where there's 2 gazillion billion objects in the world. It's not like you can make a blind person see by classifying, you know, 10 gazillion objects. So in retail, sure, we're looking for Cokes and Pepsis and people carrying them around in the grocery store. And if we see that, we can react to it. And the CPGs, consumer packaged goods companies, the food makers of the world like Coke and Pepsi would say, you know, something like if they see somebody with a Coke, they may want to show a Pepsi ad if it's Pepsi, or vice versa. But in a security context, I'm working with some really smart people and at Microsoft and other places, some PhDs, and doing some engineering ourselves here to build classifiers for the common weapon. So you probably, well, everyone in the world, in the civilized world, knows that about the massacre at Mandalay Bay Hotel in Las Vegas, and that crazy guy killed a slew of people. But what the world hasn't found out yet is that under common surveillance cameras, this guy was loading weapons in his car in the Mandalay Bay parking lot, meaning taking weapons and putting them in duffel bags and suitcases, and then in many trips transporting them up into his hotel room under common surveillance cameras. So forensically, the FBI, one might speculate, is looking at these tapes now and watching him do this. One might speculate. And one might also speculate that at Mandalay Bay, they have this giant security center with 300 to 500 live streams of their security cameras, but it's humans. And humans can only look at so many screens at a time. Right. And humans miss stuff like this. So it would make sense for us to build another layer that just sends a little bit of a flag. Hey, you know, I'm 37% confident there's I'm so not a gun guy. What do you call those things? AR-15, AR-14?
Whatever they are.
Name a gun, Richard. You know about this stuff.
An AR-15 is fine.
AR-15. I'm 57% confident there's an AR-15 on, you know, at this location at this time, you know, and send a flag to the security system. But if you switch it, you know, computer vision, if you switch use cases, we're also looking at X-rays and MRIs and ultrasound images for stuff that just gets missed. We can't expect our doctors to know everything. There are rare diseases, rare syndromes typically, that don't get caught unless you're trained to catch them. And it would make sense to interject these processes in the radiation or in the X-ray process, in the MRI process. I'm 78% confident that's pulmonary urethral valve syndrome. and just give another layer of diagnosis to the doctor so they could go, oh, I've never heard of that one. And oh yeah, there's something abnormal there. And of course, this works at a macro and micro level. We can look at molecular structures in computer vision just like we can pull frames out of a surveillance camera. So that's what I've been doing. That's my passion. It's totally fun. We do wander into Big Brother a little bit. And there's only so much we can do. But we're responsible with it as technologists. We're lectured by Satya Nadella, the CEO of Microsoft, that we have to be responsible with our power. So we're responsible with it, and we're doing some life-changing, life-saving stuff. And at a consumer level, we believe we're helping the process. And there's I could go forever on this. Do you guys?
What did you think of that build safety demonstration?
Yeah. We should go back and tell people what it was, actually.
I'll include a link in the show notes to the YouTube video, but this was shown at Build.
Yeah. And I was sitting next to you, right? Up close. Mm-hmm. and I'm saying to you, holy shit, how are they doing that? Holy shit, how are they doing? So what they did is they had essentially a Hollywood set. They mocked up, a production manufacturing environment. And in the software, it was recognizing everything in real time, every little thing, from a book on the wall to the jackhammer that the guy was holding to the telephone. Everything in that room was being recognized by computer vision, all at the same time in real time. And then the use case was a visitor was on the manufacturing plant with a special badge and was screwing around. They picked up a jackhammer, and then this software recognized that person was not trained or allowed to touch the jackhammer and sent an alert. Great use case, really Big Brother, but I'm sitting next to Richard in the audience going, holy cow, how are they pulling that off? And in reality, that's nothing production software in Microsoft. That was kind of a demo app, and they basically built their own server farm, their own Azure data center right there on stage, and had more processing power than God, and like something like 1,000 cameras staring at it, and it works. And it wasn't a ruse, but it's not cost-effective, realistic to do that in real life.
And before you go on, Tim, we have to stop here for just a minute for this very important message. Hey, Rockheads, this is Carl. Have you tried JetBrains Rider? It's a new cross-platform .NET IDE that's light yet powerful and comes from the makers of ReSharper, IntelliJ, IDEA, and WebStorm. You can write .NET code on Windows, Mac, or Linux. Rider has you covered. Rider helps you develop ASP.NET, .NET Core, .NET Framework, Xamarin, and Unity applications. Most languages used in .NET development are supported, from C#, VB.NET, F#, and XAML to ASP.NET Razor syntax, JavaScript, TypeScript, and all that other front-end stuff. It comes with navigation, thousands of code inspections, refactorings, unit testing, debugging, rich coding assistance, and more advanced IDE features, powered by proven technology from ReSharper and WebStorm. Download Rider now and take it for a 30-day trial at rider.dotnetrocks.com. That's rider.dotnetrocks.com. And you're listening to .NET Rocks. Carl Franklin and Richard Campbell here. Tim Huckaby's here. We're talking about computer vision and just describing the demo that happened at Build. And go ahead, continue with that. I remember saying the same thing to myself. How on earth are they doing it?
Yeah, so they threw a lot of money at it, which isn't realistic in real life. Interestingly enough, though, us geeks who follow Moore's law and its execution, we're on a path, but that by 2025, our CPUs will be able to calculate at the speed of the human brain. Just think about that for a second. That doesn't mean machines are going to be sentient and smarter than us. It just means, CPUs will be able to calculate as quickly. And we have CPUs like that and our hardware costs remaining so inexpensive, it's realistic to think that in what would that be? 7-8 years, that will be accomplished cost effectively and easily because we'll have the power.
And it'll be in the language too. I mean, Microsoft is already messing around with Q#, quantum computing.
Right.
We're talking about fractions of time that it takes things to happen now.
So at least in the Microsoft world, which by the way is never really mentioned in the press when they talk about AI, and really they are the leader. But it's always Google and, Apple and other companies like that. But by the way, it just about 4 weeks ago, Microsoft restructured their company in New York to define AI as one of the 5 pillars of the business. So when that happens, you know that they are putting the best people in the world on these problems. And it's showing. I mean, that cognitive team at Microsoft, the cognitive services team, man, they almost weekly release. They've got
it's crazy.
They've got like 31 APIs exposed, and there's some events coming up where they're gonna release a whole bunch of new ones, and it's just such a fun world right now.
Yeah, sure is.
I seem to always say that, but it sure is. Really, computer vision is just so fascinating to me.
You've been in the computer vision business for a while. Has your software radically changed with this sort of latest generation of stuff? Like, did you sort of go from a traditional vision recognition model over to more the deep learning models? Did that happen to you guys?
Yeah, a typical good question from you, Richard. The interesting thing, I think, and you guys mentioned it earlier, is, we built all that software for the Kinect device throughout the years. And that's computer vision in itself. And then remember, Kinect disappeared. Well, You know why they disappeared? They all went over to HoloLens. And so all that stuff is in the HoloLens device. But what it meant to us, and it goes back to machine learning, is that all that cool Kinect stuff we did 7-8 years ago, we do in software now with commodity cameras.
Right.
Yeah.
I've always wondered about this problem with HoloLens and Kinect for that money. They spent so much money building that custom hardware to try and have enough horsepower to do all that recognition, and it's totally obsolete.
I wouldn't say it's totally obsolete. Would you, Tim?
No, certainly the Kinect device is obsolete because everything it did we can do in software. Now that HoloLens is a different discussion. It's a magical device if they ever ship the damn thing. But really, the poignant point is all that stuff we got for free in Kinect, we're now doing in software.
Yeah.
Right.
We're judging distance like at that NFL stadium over the weekend. We're tuning common surveillance cameras to look out 50 feet. And when we're recognizing humans from 50 feet away and tracking them as they walk right by the digital sign, looking for the bad guy.
Yeah. Yeah.
That we got for free with Kinect. Remember 6 body IDs at a time, all that business, Carl?
Right. Yeah, sure.
Remember?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, well, now we can track unlimited people. We're really, we're camera agnostic now, so it's just a matter of the capability of the camera. And in some security scenarios, there are $10,000 surveillance cameras that see 2,000 feet to a 2-inch resolution in HD. Like crazy, awesome cameras. And then there's the $20 cameras I use in demos in my keynotes that do just as well up close.
From what I understand, the low resolution cameras do almost better at object recognition. Maybe not facial recognition, but certainly objects. Because objects you want kind of fuzzy outlines and color patterns and things like that. If there's too much detail, it kind of makes it harder, doesn't it?
Well, I think that we're at least in our learning models in creating classifiers, we're probably a little bit more advanced in that we feed it as much as possible. And the difference now between now and 2 years ago is we don't need 10,000 pictures of a Coke to do the machine learning. Really, we can get by with like 50, and which is shocking. Shocking.
Well, that's if you're making your own model, right? But if you're using a cognitive service like you said, a REST API, that you just say, you send it a picture and it says, oh, that's a Coke, because they've already trained it and they're continuously training it.
Yeah, well, you're talking about Microsoft's custom vision service, which frankly is the best kept secret at Microsoft, the most awesome technology they have right now. I just wish they would have called it object recognition. But no, they called it custom vision. And that's their object recognition technology. And in that technology, you do build your own classifiers. Now, being that said, they have provided what is effectively a machine learner for machine learning. It's the portal on Azure where you submit the pictures of the Cokes and the Pepsis and start building this classifier. And you've got these amazing tools to catch exceptions and relearn them, and they've just done such a good job with this thing. So once you're done with building that, then you call it with a REST API.
Well, but I'm also talking about the sort of the canned things that they have in cognitive services that are already trained. That kind of thing. Maybe not object
like
recognition,
food.
But yeah.
There's some like sample classifiers they've built. Yeah.
Yeah.
I could talk tech on this forever, but that same team, Anna Roth, if you know the name from this team, just this brilliant young lady, and built her and her team built the Xcode version of this. So, Microsoft's this friendly open source world. So now you can do this stuff on Android and on iOS devices, recognize objects, and you could do it disconnected from a network. Think about that for a little bit. You export the classifier to my iPhone, and my iPhone that I hate, I can take it off Wi-Fi and put it on airplane mode and recognize a Coke. Now in retail, oh my God, that's like the holy grail. Like picture our retail business where you hold up your cell phone to any product that's in the grocery store, and that instantiates this awesome AR experience. At Internology, we're working with Hollywood and on all this MR, AR stuff. So we're launching movie characters in real time and having them walk and talk and stuff like that. That in retail, that is so powerful. That's your marker. If you're familiar with the AR, MR world, your marker can be a common object. When typically in AR, it's like a barcode or something.
Exactly.
It's a barcode or it's a physical location, with chords. But having a marker be something arbitrary, oh my goodness, we're just going to release so much cool software over the next year.
As I was just saying with Stephen Forte last week.
Stephen Forte.
My 15-year-old daughter's favorite thing to do is to sit across the table at dinner and surreptitiously take a video of me and ask me a dumb question, and then take my answer and turn it into a fat chipmunk speaking really fast.
Because that's what technology is used for.
And then share it with all her friends.
On Instagram. On
Instabook.
Or Facegram, or whatever that's called.
Like I said, that's kind of a new version of social warfare right there.
Yeah, that's not the consumer use cases we're talking about. We're talking about, upselling millennials from Pepsi to Perrier through augmented reality experiences.
From Pepsi to Perrier to Pellegrino.
Yeah. By the way, made by the same company.
Nice. I was just playing with the computer vision page in cognitive services, and of course they have a feature here where you just upload an image. I'll tell you what it is.
Yeah. They have a bunch of cool sample apps that use their own APIs. Yeah, and this stuff is also used throughout Microsoft. A lot of the products that this team is building are used internally. But I gotta tell you guys about this new project. It's so freaking cool because it's Hollywood. Do I have time to do that?
Yes,
absolutely.
But before you do that, we have a little business to take care of. Richard, guess what time it is?
It must be that happy time again.
Yes, it's actually time to test Tim's neural scanning technology, which is at this moment reading my mind. And Tim can actually read my joke from my mind in plain text right now. Okay, Tim, I'm thinking of it. What's the joke?
I refuse to participate in this nonsense.
It's actually time to give away a D-Experience subscription to one lucky member of the .NET Rocks fan club. Become a UI superhero with DevExpress UI controls and libraries, and deliver elegant .NET solutions that address customer needs today, and leverage your existing knowledge to build next-generation touch-enabled solutions for tomorrow. Whether it's an Office-inspired application or a data-centric analytics dashboard, DevExpress Universal ships with everything you'll need to build your best without limits or compromise. And check out their DevExtreme React Grid, built from the ground up to fully support all the cool features that come with React, like the virtual DOM and state controllers like Redux. It supports master detail, sorting, grouping, paging, and editing, and you can get it for free on GitHub. But learn more and download your free 30-day trial of DevExpress Universal at devexpress.com/superhero.
Well, all right, buddy. Who's our winner?
Today's winner is Daniel Sandberg.
Congratulations, Daniel.
Yeah.
Golf clap for you, sir.
And Daniel just won the D-Experience subscription, a big pile of awesome from our friends at DevExpress, just for being a member of the .NET Rocks fan club. And if you don't know what that is, go to .NETRocks.com, click on the big Get Free Stuff button, answer a few questions, and join the .NET Rocks fan club. We have thousands of members all over the world, and every show, we like to give away stuff from our sponsors. And every December, we give away a $5,000 technology shopping spree, which we did for, the fifth time?
Something like that, yeah.
I can't remember how many. It's been too many times, but we did that on show 1502, if you want to go back and listen to that. And we also like to ask our guest, Tim, of course, if you had $5,000 to spend on technology today, and this ought to be awesome, what would you buy?
Ooh, that's not
a fishing reel.
No,
I'd
that's
buy
not
some
enough
fly
money.
fishing gear.
That's not enough
some
money.
new waders.
Are you mocking me?
Yes, as a matter of fact,
if I had 5,000, God, that's not enough money. Because my freaking Surface Book that I have a love-hate relationship would consume like 3,000 of that.
Hey, well, another 2,000 for an SD card reader. So
that had to be their joke. I was bitching to Carl about my Surface Book earlier.
Nice.
Yeah.
I do love it. I just think it's overpriced.
Yeah.
You can spend $5,000 on a fly rod. I mean, you get yourself a Per Brandon like that's.
But that's not.
There you go.
That's not technology.
Are you kidding?
Well, it's not electronic technology. It's graphite technology or composite fiber technology.
He's got bamboo ones that are $6,000.
Exactly.
Why don't you connect some waterproof cameras to some Raspberry Pis, drop them with stones into the water, and then have them tell you where the fish are?
Well, this is going to sound really geeky, but I've always wanted to observe through computer vision what happens at different times of day above and below the water level. And that would consume a lot of money. Meaning, now we're going into the weeds, but, trout feed at certain times of day and they eat different bugs. And, you always want to see what animals are doing at night. And yeah, I'd like to, but that's, I need $100K for that.
It'd be cool to have an app for your phone that you just get out in the boat and it says where to go with GPS, like in the lake where the fish are. You could actually see them.
That's kind of cheating.
That'd be pretty cool.
It's kind of cheating, but yeah, I mean,
yeah.
Believe it or not, the drones are illegal in most places in the world when it comes to fishing, and that makes total sense. You don't want to send the drone out to find the marlin so you can kill it. Well, some people do, but typically, Department Fish and Game doesn't want you to do that.
So you're saying the fun of fishing is just sitting and waiting and
hunt.
Wondering?
In fly fishing, there's no waiting. It's constant action, but it's the hunt.
Right.
So can I tell you about this cool computer vision project we have with Hollywood?
Please do.
Absolutely.
It's so freaking awesome. Richard, I don't think I told you this yet. We did this joint venture at Internology with Imagination Park Entertainment. That has opened a number of doors in Hollywood. So I'm up in LA all the time now. The process, here's the use case and the problem. When Hollywood films a movie and then does its first edit, that's often 1 or 2 years before it's actually, like Star Wars right now, before it's actually seen by the public, right?
Yeah.
there is a process called screening where people come in and watch the movie. They're under strict, heavy NDA. They watch the movie and they give their feedback about the movie, and that gives the editors and the directors a chance to recut the scenes, even reshaping the story based on audience feedback, right? You know this process. In Hollywood,
sure, yeah.
In Hollywood, they for 100 years they've pulled random people out of a 5-mile radius of the studio itself, pulled them off the street, given them $50 and said, hey, for the next 2 hours, you're going to watch this movie. Okay. And that's done often a year in advance. Well, we are building software for that process so that people all over the world can do the screening process.
Wow.
And we're going to watch those people while they watch the movie.
Yeah, I love that you stop surveying them, that you actually watch their reaction.
Exactly. So we're going to do an emotional profile, how long they look at the scene, how shocked they are, how happy are they, how engaged they are. And then report back
how many
the
texts
output
per minute.
Right. So if they disengage, we'll see all that. The output is one of the outputs is from Cognitive Services. It's their video indexer.ai. If you know this tool, this is where you submit a movie and it pulls all the metadata out of it. So like in the use case we were talking about before, the build demo, you load the build keynote file video into this tool, and it just pulls it all apart and indexes it for you and gives you a video scrubber, so you can just skip to that one demo by searching on, or it'll already be tagged, but by searching on computer vision or object recognition. It would be already tagged. Just click on it. It would take you right there. You wouldn't have to watch the entire keynote. Amazing tool, but it has an API. So that in this case, I think I'm allowed to tell you one of the movies we're doing is the next Predator that won't be out till summer of 2018.
Wow.
So if you that actor that's so famous that used to be the governor of California is he's getting up there in age. And it just allows you to skip forward and see the sentiment in every scene he's in, and then God, probably not supposed to tell you
revulsion.
This. And just in general terms, how their sentiment is by watching them, not by asking them, "Hey, was that a great movie?" Yes.
Right.
Right. No, it's by actually observing them, and the tools we have to pull this off are pretty spectacular. Now, getting a 100-year-old industry to switch to this technology, that's a different story.
Different problem, yeah.
Yeah, they're worried about movies being stolen and things like that. So we do some interesting security. DRM is DRMing the content and having it expire and turnkey, Surface Book systems. That's all pretty easy stuff and solve problems. Yep. But we have to introduce stuff like you have to do the facial recognition thing in Windows Hello just to get into the system. Right.
And so it's only certain people are allowed to see the movie.
Exactly. So once I'm in, if I'm watching the movie and it's watching me, and Kelly, my wife Kelly, who you both know well, steps up from behind me, the movie stops and says, "Hey, listen, Tim, only one person is allowed to watch this movie. You know the rules."
Nice.
That's not the language, but it immediately stops and reminds the person watching the movie that hey, only one person at a time, and it's you, and we see somebody behind you.
That is cool.
So it's got all that stuff built into it.
Well, you'd also be, if they do try and cam it, you're going to see them camming it.
Right. Like in the Malaysia movies where somebody's in the back of, in Kuala Lumpur, or somebody's in the back of the movie theater and filming the movie, with the back of people's heads. Yeah, well, we catch all that stuff.
Wow.
Yeah, so cool project. Fairly easy, to tell you the truth. We just have so much plumbing, a lot of which we're getting for free from the Cognitive Services team, but a lot of which we've already done,
Right.
Yeah. So, and it's Hollywood, and it's cool, and we get to meet interesting people, or I get to meet interesting people, so that's been fun.
So, how much backlash do you get from people about, privacy and all that stuff? I mean, I know I know the reality is that you're being watched all the time. Love it, like it, lump it, leave it, whatever. But how do you get that a lot? Do you get people saying, I don't like what you're doing. I don't like all this surveillance and people sell my information.
That's the beautiful thing about humans, right? Everybody gets their own opinion. Most of our software is for good. Some of it certainly is retail tainted. The other thing is being strict to privacy law is essential. Like, for instance, in the U.S., it's in generic terms. In the U.S., if you're under 12, we can't look at them. So the minute we do an age profile of under 12, we immediately stop looking, right? Yet in Asia, the most surveilled, is that a word? Surveilled? The most watched, culture in the world, there is no privacy law. They're being watched 24/7, especially in some countries in Asia, the ones we know of, right? The other thing is there's an interesting lawsuit right now, the United States versus Google and Facebook and Shutterfly. And all three of those companies are breaking U.S. privacy law and European privacy law in some parts of Europe and some other places in the world. So, and what they're doing, if you think about this, which is really going to change the way we build software, is like when Kelly tags me in her Facebook post, that breaks privacy law. I have not explicitly given her or Facebook permission to apply my name to a face. That breaks U.S. privacy law in some places in Europe. And that's exactly what Facebook does. That's exactly what Google does and worse. And then Shutterfly, I guess, has this feature that does that. Most people think that Facebook's going to win. And it would make sense to be able to tag somebody's picture in Facebook if they were your friend, right? That would make total sense. So my point is, like many times throughout our careers, the technology has moved beyond the law, and the law needs to catch up.
Yeah, and well, that's true.
Yeah, it still comes down to responsibility. I will not opt in to be tracked in a grocery store. I have no desire to be tracked in a grocery store.
Right.
But
so
for
you don't 40% have a store card?
Off, you know who would, and that way I've been talking about her this whole interview, and that's my wife. Yeah. She would agree to be tracked, and so would millennials. They would agree to be tracked if they would get some deal out of it. 40% off.
Well, you think about all of those affinity cards that shopping stores have had forever. That's exactly that. Right?
Yeah,
we'll give you a discount if you use this card. Right. We're tracking you. Make no mistake.
Yeah, there's going to be a deal. No one's going to be tracked. I think privacy law, the way it shakes out in Europe and the U.S., I think, or North America and the U.S., or North America and Europe, sorry. I think the way it's going to shake out is that if you'll opt in and you'll be able to be tracked, or you'll opt out, and I'll opt out because I don't want to be tracked in a grocery store. I don't care about 40% off Diet Pepsi. I really don't.
Now, do you know something that we don't about what they do with that tracking data?
They would be a government, or they would be Visibility, my company.
Yeah, right.
Visibility, my company, does not store pictures of people, nor do they store people's names. Bad guys, actually, we don't even have the pictures of the bad guys. At that point, it's a physics mesh. Right? Any picture we would have would be for a demo. Now, the governments of the world, specifically in Asia, that are tracking people, absolutely are identifying people by their face and with their name and where they go. Absolutely they are. I don't know if the U.S. government does. I hope they don't. They certainly do it in a security context for perceived bad guys, but not for you and me.
Right.
I doubt it. But in a consumer context, we're not allowed to save any of this stuff. All we know is, white, 55 to 65, male.
Yeah, right.
And by the way, that's an ignored demographic, me. Because and frankly, well, and you too. White old guys are ignored demographic because we're not influenceable. We just don't care if Beyonce drinks Diet Pepsi. We don't care. However, there is a highly influenceable demographic in the US and in North America and parts of Europe that is easily influenced. And easy meaning, percentages in the 20 to 40%. And that's, female millennials. Sorry, but that's the way it is. Right. So if Beyonce drinks Diet Pepsi, typically, we see an uptake in that particular demographic. There are exceptions. If you want to talk about demographics, man, there's some really interesting stuff. Like, for instance, for the first time in United States history, there is a large demographic that is wildly influenceable, middle class with a ton of disposable income, spending income. And that's Mexican American in the San Fernando Valley of Los Angeles. We have this middle class demographic that's grown up through the years. They have grown up and not been influenced by CPGs. So what are the CPGs doing right now? They're just hammering them with Spanish TV commercials for Budweiser and other stuff like that. Fascinating stuff. There are other exceptions too. And frankly, what we do is in our data warehouse, what happens to be an Azure SQL data warehouse, you use machine learning. We have some data scientist people, not me, but some talented people that pull out exceptions. Like, why is a male Asian millennial demographic paying so much attention to Perrier in the Chicago market from 3 to 5 p.m. Monday to Thursday? That type of stuff.
Right.
And when that type of stuff bubbles up through visualizations, right? Then, the Nestle company who makes all the water in the world, including Perrier, will specifically target a demographic based on that. That's a little big brother. And our software does do that. It's not killing people. It's not, we've also built software for the companies that kill the world with their cheeseburgers. So
yeah, that's true.
So, it's really cool tech, but it's a little bit, you could raise an eyebrow, I would say. Those people who are so protective of their privacy.
Have you been paying attention to GDPR, the new EU? Yeah. Because that comes into effect this coming May.
Yeah.
So, and at least it's broad reaching. Like, it's all of the EU that's signed on to this thing. Yeah.
Well, we could debate forever on what's going to be left of the EU after all this stuff. But yeah, GDPR is going to, in my personal opinion, realize I'm jaded, right? Because I'm a technology guy. But GDPR is going to set us back from a technology perspective. It's like, remember how the architects of HIPAA said they were sorry because they just thwarted innovation in the medical industry. But they didn't intend to do that. It was just a byproduct. And I just fear that GDPR thing is going to do the exact same thing for a few years. But security's real, and that their intentions are good. But it's a tough challenge.
Well, I think there's certain parts of it that will be super useful when we talk about just kind of get our heads around what is possible in the environment. GDPR includes this right to access, which means that any citizen of the EU should be able to request of any company doing business in the EU, what data do you have of mine?
Yeah,
so when I think about your kind of vision systems in a grocery store, the idea that I could go to a Carrefour, and here's me whipping out my European knowledge, Carrefour being a grocery store chain in the European Union, and say, I would like all of the data you have on me, and that means any video you have of me.
Wow.
Which is the most interesting thing about GDPR in a discussion we've had internally, me saying, hey, business people, you realize what you're asking for. And I've said, listen, if we get people to opt in to be tracked throughout their retail experience in Europe, when GDPR comes in, and you give them a 40% coupon, that's not the end of the burden. If they come back and say, we'll have to build systems that allow these people to retrieve what we tracked of them. Full-on software.
Right.
And the right to be forgotten.
Yeah.
So after retrieving it, saying, I'm happy with this, erase it all.
Exactly.
You have to erase it.
At that point, it doesn't seem worth it, does it?
Well, no, it doesn't, because if you're going to be using it for nefarious purposes, of course you're going to cover your tracks. And if you're not, then you're going to be harassed.
Right. It's a discussion that needs beer, and I think like HIPAA, GDPR will go through a number of revisions as it matures. Or maybe that's the intent, to scare companies off.
The solution is don't do it, when at the same time it provides such a substantial competitive advantage.
Yeah. It's quite interesting.
Well, we call this Thursday here at .NET Rocks, folks. Just a little food for thought, some big technology coming around the corner, and Tim's going to be helping us all do it. It sounds, for better or for worse, it comes down to trust. If you trust the systems that are in place to protect you, then they can do wonderful things. And if that trust is abused and things are sold and nefarious people get a hold of them, then, of course, we have other problems. It just comes down to humans.
And we have a responsibility as technologists to use this stuff the right way. Absolutely.
That's right.
Because it's just going to get more and more powerful. And we haven't even got to cryptocurrency in this episode.
Oh, yeah.
But that's a different episode that we're heavily involved in.
Yeah.
But do we all subscribe to the idea that there's no way back? We only have to go forward through this.
Manage forward. Can't go back.
Yes.
Right.
We're already over the waterfall.
There's no unlearning this stuff. That's right. Well, Tim, what's next for you real quick before we wrap up?
I've got 3 weeks at home, gentlemen. I have been traveling like crazy this entire year. I don't think I've ever traveled so much. I've got 3 weeks at home and going to do a bunch of 2018 product planning with my dev teams, and it's just totally fun work. So I'm looking forward to that.
Awesome.
And watching some curling.
And watching some 25-year-old female curling in Victoria Island, Canada.
Yes.
The finals will be televised. Probably not in your town, but up here.
All the more reason to come up, Richard.
I think you're right. I think you need to come up.
Very cool. Tim, thanks again. It's been fun.
Yeah, it's always fun to talk to you guys. Thank you so much.
All right.
Take care.
We'll see you next time on .NET Rocks. .NET Rocks is brought to you by Franklin's Net and produced by Pwop Studios, a full-service audio, video, and post-production facility located physically in New London, Connecticut, and of course in the cloud. Online at pwop.com. Visit our website at dotnetrocks.com for RSS feeds, downloads, mobile apps, comments, and access to the full archives going back to show number 1, recorded in September 2002. And make sure you check out our sponsors. They keep us in business. Now go write some code. See you next time.
Got a transmitter banned by the FCC. Yes, I'm a